How's it going, guys? So we finally get part 2 of Chainsaw Man. Here we go, chapter 98. This one is called Bird and War, so let's just dive right into it. So we kick off the chapter with a teacher talking to his class, introducing a headless chicken with a bow tie named Bucky as their new class pet, and he reveals that he's actually the chicken devil, and in 3 months they're actually going to kill and eat him. And then we see all of the students kind of surrounding this chicken and are kind of like amazed by the fact that they're like right in front of a devil, and they kind of point out, the obvious, that not too many people are afraid of chickens, so it must be a pretty weak devil. But then our attention focuses on this mysterious girl who is just kind of looking at all the students from a distance, and she kind of decides to walk away and slams the door behind her. And this is when the students start talking about her and note that her parents were actually killed by a devil some time back. So we then follow this mysterious girl down the hallways and throughout various parts of the school where she's kind of just making negative remarks about every, group of people that she sees. So this is kind of pointing out that she's just a very antisocial and seemingly unhappy person. Because, she's eating on what seems to be the rooftop of their school alone. And this is when we're introduced to the class president, who notes that she won't make any friends if she keeps eating up there alone. And the girl points out that she doesn't need any friends, but the class president decides to stay up there and eat food with her anyways. So then we see this cool little thing that the class president is actually eating a Chainsaw Man bun. So our boy Denji's definitely getting very popular in their universe, which I love to see. This guy deserves it. But moving on, the girl goes on to just talk about how basically shitty the world is, how everything is corrupt, how the mayor has like a DUI, how most of the buildings around them are illegally constructed, and there's a devil called the Chainsaw Man that's playing a devil hunter. And she just wishes that Chainsaw Man and Bucky would drop dead. So we fast forward to 3 months where the time has come to actually kill Bucky and eat him. And the girl's actually looking forward to this, but to her surprise, the class president stands up along with the other students, and they all declare that they don't want to kill Bucky, that they want to keep him as a class pet. This is when, the teacher gets super emotional, and he's like, "Great job, guys, like you've learned your lesson, you've learned the value of life." And they quote unquote pardon the chicken and decide to keep him permanently. So to reward them, he tells them that they should all go outside and play with the Bucky. And of course, this girl is super upset because she wanted to see Bucky die, but she ends up going outside to where all the students are, and they're all playing around with Bucky, having fun, and she's just kind of standing outside, not really finding a place and feeling super awkward. And she gets egged on to join in by the class president and Mr. Tanaka, the teacher, but she's just not willing. But this is when Bucky the chicken jumps in her arms and says, "Asa Mitaka, come out of your shell and play soccer with me." And so this is revealing her name, that her name is Mitaka. And she kind of starts to blush and notes that only the class president and the teacher know her name. So she kind of lets up a little bit and points out that she realized that she's actually just been jealous of everybody, and that's why she's been like so hateful. And it seems like she's about to have like a face turn and join in with all the other students, but suddenly she trips and falls right on top of Bucky, killing him. So this obviously completely stuns all of the students, and she herself is just kind of at a loss for words and starts to have a breakdown because she doesn't know what the hell happened. And so then she just throws up and passes out. We then see that she wakes up in the infirmary of the school, or maybe her house, I'm not exactly sure, and she starts talking to herself and saying that if the class had a vote to kill off a student, they would all vote for her, and she would probably vote for herself, because it seems that all the students are now pretty hostile towards her for killing Bucky, and she's just super distraught about this and wants to die. But as she's kind of just sitting in bed loathing, she gets a knock on the door, and it's Mr. Tanaka and the class president, who came by to see her and thought it was a great idea to go visit Bucky's grave, just the 3 of them. So as they're walking down the street, the class president and Mr. Tanaka start walking across the crosswalk, and Mitaka is noticed to just be standing there waiting. And this is because the crosswalk light is still red, and the class president says hey, there's nobody around, there's no point in just waiting there. But the teacher defends her and says, "No, you're right, we should obey the laws." And this is when the class president starts getting visibly upset, and she says, "You're always such a goody two-shoes." And then she reveals something totally insane that I was not expecting. She says, Mitsuka, did you know that Mr. Tanaka apologized for Bucky's death to the whole class on your behalf? And then she goes on to say, did you know that Mr. Tanaka was the one who told me to befriend you? And then we see that she like starts bulging like from her back, like her shoulders start bulging in this weird way. So we just know that something's coming here, because then she just turns into like a full-on like fleshy monster and reveals that she's been having like an intimate relationship with her teacher, and her teacher's actually been liking Mitsuka. So a ton of things wrong with this, you know, like these are freaking high school students. But we see the class president turn into this like giant fleshy monster, and it's revealed that she made a contract with the Justice Devil to help her get with the teacher and have like a future with him, which I don't know how that kind of correlates, but you know, whatever. I mean, none of this makes sense at this point. So she then points out that she's the one that tripped her and killed Bucky off of the recommendation of the Justice Devil, and laughs it off, thinking that it was like the funniest thing in the world, and that they both showed her the value of a life, and she thanks her for it before slashing her right in the face. But just as she's getting slashed in the face, Mitsuka is kind of thinking about things in her head, and in that split second that she's basically being killed, all these thoughts run through her head, like that she wasn't responsible for Bucky's death, and that the class president was jealous of her. So it must mean that it's okay to be jealous of people, because everyone's jealous of something. And as she's laying on the ground with like her face totally torn apart, this like weird looking Furby monster thing is seen standing on top of the crosswalk light, and he says, if you want to live, your body will be mine. So suddenly Mitsuka raises back up and her wounds seem to have completely healed. And literally out of nowhere, she says Tanaka's spinal cord sword and pulls out Tanaka's head and turns his spine literally into a sword. This is when it's revealed that she was actually just inhabited by the War Devil. So yeah, like things are gonna get real, guys, because I mean, if you can imagine, the War Devil is probably pretty powerful, because we see her start to fight the Justice Devil and she's just totally making quick work of her. She cuts off one of her arms and transforms it into like this fleshy grenade. So we can kind of assume that one of the War Devil's abilities is to turn any body part, like flesh, bone, or anything, into a weapon, which I think is like totally nuts. I can't wait to see more of this in future chapters. But she delivers a final blow on the class president using the spinal cord sword and tosses the fleshy grenade that she made towards both of their bodies. And as it's exploding, she walks by this poster of Chainsaw Man and she says, just you wait, Chainsaw Man, I'll make you vomit nuclear weapons back up. And this is where the chapter ends. So a lot to unpack here. I'm actually going to make a video kind of detailing a few important key things that we learned from this chapter in a video probably like later today or tomorrow. But I mean, yeah, I mean, this seems like this is going to be like the main antagonist of at least this arc, maybe even like the entirety of part 2, which I think is pretty awesome. And I just can't wait to see what happens when she finally meets Denji, because you know, she's in high school and apparently Denji's also in high school, so maybe they go to the same school. I don't know, we'll see. But I just can't wait to see our boy Denji. Hopefully we get to see him next chapter. I think this chapter was a really good way to set up kind of like the events that are to come. You know, it kind of sets up like our villain's motivations and kind of gives her some depth, because obviously we feel for Mitsuka and she didn't deserve to die, and she was just like how many of us probably feel or felt in high school, you know, like out of place, a loner, not really feel like you fit in, and just like, you know, some really relatable person, you know. So, but hey, we have another swirly-eyed woman that wants to kill Denji, so we'll see how that goes. Like I said, I'll be putting out a video later today talking more in detail about this chapter, but until then, please make sure to like this video and please subscribe, because I do post chapter reviews very, very quickly. So make sure you have notifications on so you don't miss anything as soon as it pops up. I'll see you guys later.